So the next thing I kind of want to talk about is enrollments. So the first way, there's kind of two different ways you can do an enrollment in the system. The first way is via uploading an enrollment file. So I'm going to show that one, and then I'm going to show kind of like how to troubleshoot if necessary. Um, and I just realized I'm going to have to because I didn't update the file. But so you'll come down here to this, not come down here, you'll go up here to the hamburger menu. And so when you need to upload an enrollment file or a payroll file, I'll be showing that as well, but you'll go to the same place. We go down to file upload, and then there's an upload files. So when we click that, it takes us to this upload file maintenance screen. And so it's asking a few, it obviously populates the organization information here, but then it also asks for a file definition. So in this dropdown, we can select what type of file it is, whether it's an employer payroll or a person enrollment file. We're going to do the person enrollment file, and then we're going to select the file. So I'm going to select the file, and then when I click that, it opens up my browser and allows me to search for the file. So obviously you'll have it on in your computer somewhere, and you can go find it and select it, click open. And when you do that, it populates in here, and we have the little upload files button. So I'm going to click that. And so, oh, I must have updated it. So what that's doing is basically when that, so ah, bear with me. I'm trying to figure out how to say this. So what the system is doing is it takes that file and it's validating it. It's validating the actual file. You can see here, this is this CSV file. If it was like a PDF, it would probably reject it and go, nope, that's not the right format. You don't have the right lines, numbers, whatever. Something in here is not right, and it just immediately rejects it. If it does that, it's going to put it into, this will turn red. So the fact that this is green tells me that the formatting is correct, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the files, like the lines, are correct. So I can always go up here if I get it in red, or if this is green. The next thing, at least this is how I do it, is I go to my little hamburger menu, and then I come down here and I click this view processed. So this allows me to search for that file that I just uploaded and make sure it's been processed correctly. So I can come in here and I can select the date, you know, or if I know the file name, I can do it that way. I can do the type of file, and look it up based off of that. I know I don't have too many files in here, so I'm just going to click search and search them all. So you can see here, the date is the 18th today. So I know that this is the file that I just uploaded, and I have a status of processed. So that's telling me that this file has been processed correctly and that it's now ready for me to go view those enrollment files and submit them to TFFR. Now, I just kind of want to talk about these other ones here. I have them in review status, so I'm going to use these as an example. So like when I was talking about like when that goes red instead of green, you can come here and you can see, okay, this is in review. Why is it in review? So if you want to see why it's in review, you'll come here and click on this file ID, file header ID. And so then that opens up this maintenance screen where you can view that information. You have the comments. It's rejected due to critical errors in the file. An email notification has been generated. But then you can come down here into the detail records status summary. So what it's doing is like based on the actual line, it's saying whether or not it's in review and why. So we can sit here and we can see the status is review, and we have a count of, one. So it's like one line is in review and one line is unprocessed. I want to look at the review one. So I'll click on this hyperlink, and then that populates the actual line item or line number, where I'm going to click on that, and then I can view it in more detail. So if you once I do that, it takes me to this file detail maintenance screen where I can see why this line item is in review. And so I can see here, I get this, this is just the basic information about the file. Then I have the detail record data. And so this is nice because to me, I don't know if you're like me, but I need to see how the information is lining up. And usually this is where I can see that I put, sometimes I put the like wrong, like I put the date where the organization code should be. So then I can go and make that correction. As you can see with this one, I come down here and I can see the air details. Okay. September 31st, this is an invalid date, that doesn't exist, I can go, oh yeah, that's right. It's September 30th. That's the last day of the month. I put the wrong date in. Okay. So now this is where I think it's important to note when you're doing these files is you can't update it here. So you'll pull this file open and you'll update it within the file. You'll go correct this period end date and put the correct date here, and then you'll, save it, and then you'll re-upload the file. And then once you've done that, then you'll hopefully get that process that I did when I did it the first time. Is there any questions about that? I know this is probably new for you guys, but that's kind of like how you can troubleshoot when you're uploading a file.
So
Okay.
Chris, and
Yeah.
I want to step in real quickly and just say one thing to the employers. So
Hmm.
Software Unlimited and Tyler Technologies have deployed their patch to create the file in the proper format. We have tested their file format that they provided to us and made sure it complied with our system. However, there's still, if you have questions how to produce that file from your vendor system, your vendor will have to answer that if anything's changed about that. I just wanted to clarify that point. But the file it produces, the format has been tested in our system and should be compliant.
Thank you, Chad. Yeah, this is like me being user error. So when I show this, because as you can see, like I put in the wrong date. So, but hopefully you guys won't have as much issues as I do when I do this. With that said, so the next thing is like when you have an enrollment, um, let's see, I'm gonna go here. So there's two ways that you can submit this enrollment. Now they have been uploaded, so I can go here and I can look at the enrollment lookup screen. And so what that's gonna do, I can just search and we can see um, that this Gemma Quinn, she's a new enrollment and she was, this is my file upload. So, you can go in here and like do it like one at a time. So if I click on that, it takes me to her enrollment summary with the um, little certified with the submitted by and the suppress warnings. The other way now you might be like, I only have one person in that file, so it makes it easy to just do it that way. But we also like if you have really big files, like maybe at the beginning of a school year when you have all the new teachers coming in, you can also come here. Sorry, I went fast with that. That's a problem for me. Let me do it again. Hamburger menu, and you go down to the enrollment summary. What it does here is you notice I have these enrollment records. And so this is that file that I just did. And so like I have a record count of 1, but it could be like 50, 100, however many different enrollment records you have. And you can just validate you select that and certify that, whoops, that one is correct. And so when you'll check this saying that you stand by the information, it's accurate and complies with the policies, and then you'll say who you are. And then you'll submit selected. So when that happens, what that's doing is then that's sending that information to TFFR. It starts another workflow for them to go in and view and review that information and make sure everything's correct before they like submit and post it and create those new records. If it's a new enrollment, I should say, or updated if it's a termination and so forth within their system. So that is uploading enrollment records. Is there any questions about that? Okay. If there isn't, I kind of, before I move on, I want to show the manual way of creating an enrollment record. So you guys have the option, like maybe you have a one-off, and it's just easier for you guys to go in and just, you don't want to upload the file. You just have one record, one new teacher that started in the middle of the year or something, and it's just easier for you guys to go in and do it. There is an option for you to do it manually. So the way we do that is we'll go up to our hamburger menu. Also, I should probably point out the other way to do it. We go to our home screen, and if you click this create an enrollment tile, you can do it via that way. Otherwise, you can go up to the hamburger menu, click on the enrollments. And so where I was looking up that enrollments, this is where you can look up all the different enrollments, but we can also come down here and we have a new button. So if I click on this new button, what it does is it launches the enrollment wizard. So we have wizards set up within the ESS that works you through the process. They're kind of a nice feature. You've probably seen them before if you've ever like had to set up banking information or, an account for something where it just works you through that process. Like now enter this information, now do this. So wizards are pretty common. I know that now that I've trained this multiple times, I see them all over the place. But with that said, what we're doing here is the first thing, we have our steps on the side. And the first thing it's going to ask us is what type of enrollment. And so based on what you select here will determine what the system does after that. For a new enrollment, it's going to select different steps for you to do because you're going to have to enter different information. As you can see here, we have the different types: employment change, new enrollment, return to payroll, and termination. So if you were doing a termination, it's going to ask you for some information about the employee so that they can just pull that information that they have on file and you don't need to enter it out. But you'll enter in other, like when they are being terminated and so forth. I'm going to do a new enrollment today just to keep it simple. So I'm going to select new enrollment. I'm going to click next. And so what that does is the first thing, it wants me to enter the employer detail. So I have employer detail, organization name, code. So in this drop down, it's going to populate what organization this person is now working at. So this
Can I
is for
just add
Jane.
something
Yeah,
real quick, Kristen? Just so
of
they
course.
know that this is how they're going to do their member action forms now. Before they had to send in a piece of paper and get it
Gotcha.
to us. This will be all online now. So this is like as if somebody's changing their name or whatever, or when you have a brand new teacher, you'll do it this way instead of the member action form.
Thank you. That's
Thanks.
perfect. This is why I love having you guys here. So yes, this is what you guys will do instead, and it's pretty simple and slick. So you'll enter in the organization name, and once you've done that, you'll click next, and then it's going to ask for the social security number. So I'm just going to put in a random one, and then I'll click next. And then it's going to take me to this employee detail step. So this is where, it populated that social security number that I put in. It's going to ask for the gender. I'll say male. Date of birth. I'm going to select. How old should we make him? We'll say, let's make him a Halloween baby. So we'll put the date of birth there. We also have to enter in the marital status. We got married, single, widowed, and unknown. I'll say single. And then first name, James. Whoops, went too far over. And we'll say Smith for the last name. And then we come down here and we can see we have some asterisks next to. Oh, I'm sorry, I see do you have to do the enroll current employees? You shouldn't have to. that's going to get pulled over with our data conversion. So this is just for new hires. Okay. So this primary phone number, we can see here that this is a little asterisk here. We got the primary phone type. So we'll select if it's a landline or mobile. And then we'll come down here and we need to enter in their email address. And then once I've entered in all that information, now notice I just did the required information, but obviously if you have more information than that, like if they provide a secondary phone number or a secondary email or a middle name, you can enter that as well. It's just that these are the fields that are required. So I'll click next. And then that takes me to the employee address where this is where I'm going to enter James Smith's address. And then, so you kind of see me do this before with when I was doing the organization. So it's kind of the same setup. And same with the suggested address. We have the USPS validated. So it's not hooked up, so I can't show it to you, but you will, after you input this, you can click this validate button and it's going to give you the suggested addresses. And then you'll select it, use the selected address, and then it'll say that this has been validated and it'll allow you to move on. So benefit program detail. This might also be because I'm in the training region, but it's like asking me to select, this is teachers and tier. Obviously, this is dependent on, I can only select tier 2 because I believe that's all that's available for James going forward. He can't go into tier 1. Obviously, that's been, I think, it's not available for him. So but that's where I'll just select it. This might also just be already pre-populated for you guys, but I just can go in here and select teachers and just tier 2. It's pretty simple because it won't allow me to do anything else. But I do also think with our system, if you were to have another tier available, this just allows you the option of selecting more than one. Okay, so with that, I'm just going to go forward and click the next button. And so then this allows me to enter in the employment details. So this is where, contract agreement on file. Yes, I can say the total number of contracted hours, the estimated eligible earnings, and, I can decide, I can indicate if they're a member, yes or no. We'll just say no. Part-time indicator, no. Employment start date, we'll put them, we'll say they started on the 1st. And once I've entered in all that information, we have our little red asterisk, so I know which ones need to be entered for sure. I'll click the next button. And so what that does is it takes me to this enrollment summary screen. And now I like to point this out anytime we have statuses. This one's in review. I know it's in review because we still need to certify this, but it's always good if you see a review to come down here and we'll have this validation information panel, and it's going to list if there were errors with this, it would show why. Like maybe if I had already submitted one for James, it would say, you've already done this. There's already another enrollment on file, or some other errors that might occur. So that's where I could see that information here. I also talk about the different, when it says the severity, I could probably wait until I actually have errors, which I will with the employer payroll. You always get errors there, but I'll just kind of go over it at a high level here. But we have errors, warnings, and information. And if it's an error, it's like a hard error. It's going to stop you until you correct it or void the record. You can't go forward. But a warning, depending on what the warning is, you might be able to, it's like kind of conditional. So depending on what that warning is, you might want to, be like, okay, thank you for that warning. I'm going to go make those updates. If it's something that you're like, oh yeah, I know, and it's okay, you can suppress it. So that's why we have this button here. It allows you to suppress it. And then an information I kind of think of as a heads up. It's just kind of giving you information about that. I don't want to call it an error, but about the record and just saying, hey, just so you know, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, cool. Thanks for that heads up. But it's not going to affect the record or moving forward or anything like that. But as we can see, I have no validations that I need to correct or update here. So this is good to go. I can review this information. If I see something that's wrong, like maybe that validation information was in here, I could go back and make those updates. So this is just allows me to review this information and make sure everything is correct. And so once I've done that, I can click this little certify information. And when I do that, it makes this submit button active. But I'm required, I need to put in who is submitting this. So I'll enter in my name and say, I stand by this summary, this enrollment summary, and then I can click submit. And so now I have submitted that information. You can see here, I have a new enrollment record that populated within the search results. I have the submitted date. I can see the source is web self-service. And so that's, TFFR will know that you guys manually entered it via the ESS and not a file upload. So that's enrollments. That's the automatic process, and the manual process is how I kind of think of it. Is there any questions?
I just want to mention one thing on, and I don't remember what page it was on, but the one that asked for the tier.
Oh yeah,
And
it was in the yeah.
Yeah, and I don't
Somewhere.
think they're going to have to worry about that. I don't know if somebody can verify that for me or not, but
That is correct. Tanya,
Yeah.
you are
Santosh.
correct.
Okay.
Currently you have it, but we are going to, it's going to automatically pull the tier based on their join date. So
Yeah,
Okay,
that's kind of
okay.
what I was like fumbling around and kind of trying to say, because I know it's my I believe it was my training region that makes it like active, I guess, in other words, for lack of a better word. But yeah, I believe, like
Cool.
Santos said, it'll be populated for them and they won't have to do it.
Cool.
So
Yeah.
okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Santosh. So if it's a new person for that particular school, but they're already in our system, it'll automatically pull
we
in
populate
their
the
correct
information.
tier.
Yep. If we
Mhm.
Okay.
have that teacher, if a teacher is switching from one school to another, we have all the records, so they can just look up for that person and populate that information. They don't need to type in everything. They can verify and change the information. So
But it'll populate for them.
it'll populate it. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and I
And then-
have. Oh,
And then I
sorry.
just have one more point to mention there. I don't know, Christine, you are planning to cover or not. If someone is retired and they are returning to work, the enrollment needs to be done for them as well. And we will, TFFR will request for some additional information in that enrollment screen. So I'm not sure if you're planning to cover that, but if not, I want to add that statement.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't plan on covering it because I was just going to do the one and move on. But
Sure.
I have it in the handbook, so it will show you the additional, but also a lot of that information gets populated for you guys, so you don't even have to enter it because you already have that information on file. So uh, basically, it's just pulling that information for a retired member and then asking for like the different options and so forth. So hopefully that helps. But I just wanted to just show one manual enrollment, but there is the step-by-step guides I show in the handbook for each different enrollment type. So it's pretty easy and that you guys can like work through that. So